Alright guys, check this out. I played all my games this week and I started dabbling with a new deck. So I've been playing Nature and Death. Those are my two decks that I know the most about, but probably I'm becoming a Death specialist in the recent probably several weeks here. And this deck is kind of kicking ass. And I wanted to point this out because there's so many ways to do this, right? When they change things like I've described in the past, or when you encounter maybe a different level of competition than you're used to. Sometimes the deck you bring surprises the next level up, okay? So if you look here, I've got a couple things. So when I started the event, I started this weekend at Twilight Shadow, all right? And so I've been all over the place. So I got as high as the low gold, whatever that is. I can't remember the name right now. So as we go, right, this is the deck that I put together, and here's my page. I'll get to the deck in just a second, but here's the page, right? You can see actually, I'll go full screen on this, and again, all these links will be down in the description, so you could check all this stuff out. But this is this is my week, right? So 18 of 25 weekend games, so I went 18-7. Total wins there 33, so I was kind of kicking butt in that realm. I played all the 60 games I needed and ended up in Solar Gold. All right, Solar Gold, which is the highest rank I've ever been in. As you can see here in the rating tracker, it's just up. I was just kind of kicking butt all week long, and I think there's a couple things in play here, right? So I'm getting better at playing and understanding the metas of these decks, and the second thing is that my cards are getting better. So again, this is the whole point, right? This is the whole point why we grind these things. This is the whole point why we get together and talk about this stuff, is because even losing, you can get yourself to a point where you start gaining these cards. The more cards you gain, the better you can build your decks. And one of the cards I got actually to improve my deck, I didn't buy, I pulled from a pack, just earning. Okay, so this stuff is real. All right, this stuff can happen, and I'm a noob basically, but not for long. Watch it. Pretty soon I'm going to start trying other decks. I'm going to start building other things, looking at other metas and what's going on with this. But anyway, point being, and why I wanted to talk about this today, is because do you spend your time learning the game and then kind of looking at what cards you have available to you and using the best you can to create some sort of symbiosis between the cards. This is where we're at, right? So let me pull this up, and you can see again, there's my actual week, which is a pretty good week if you consider that I'm just not very good at this. But I got up to Solar Gold, and I was flirting with the next level up as well, until I smashed into some pretty stiff competition. So what I've done this week is I've recorded a whole bunch of my games, and I'm uploading them to the channel if you guys want to check it out. And again, there's some wins, some losses, nothing super amazing. But the thing that changed is the deck. Again, I started at Twilight Shadow and ended up Solar Gold and was flirting with that ethereal diamond rank, and before I started running into the super expensive decks above me that smacked me down. But considering that the deck I'm using is really only approximately, let's say, 120 bucks worth of cards, something like that, and half of those, even more than half of those, I ended up drawing from decks, from packs, right, as you win. So I think that's my whole point of this and talking about this, is that in 1 week I went from Twilight Shadow. My Auric Gold was the top rank I've achieved to any point, but now I'm Solar Gold, and as you saw, again, link will be in the description, you can check it out. And I've got a new deck, all right? And the new deck that I'm working on is, it's pretty interesting. So there you go. I called it Death Wrecked Cheap, and I'll give you the full screen here. And there's a couple things going on with this deck, and it's pretty interesting, right? So you got Ragnarok, you got Blight Bomb, you've got V-Rock, which is lets you draw some cards for free when he comes in on his roar and also in his afterlife. You've got the Necroceptor, of course, which is the zombie deck, right, which everybody uses and talks about with the death deck, but more, right? You got Mutual Hatred, which is a way to nuke a card if you need to when it drops. And this notably over on the right side here, the rank 8 card, the mana 8, I got the Helion Elite, and I added that. It's not really part of this deck meta typically, But I find that this deck is survivable and can last out a lot of people's blitzes. So having that Helion Elite ready to just kick ass at the end surprises people because they don't expect it coming in the zombie deck. So in any case, I don't know exactly all of the what's and wheres of this, but what I do know is that this deck in particular kicked ass. That's what I do know. And so if you look at, go back to my actual thing here. So you can see the deck here. Let's go full screen just so you can see what I'm talking about. On the bottom here, on the left side, this was the deck I was playing with, and it got 18 wins and 7 losses, which is pretty good, right? And then I started tweaking with the deck, these two top ones, the Other Death, which is 2 wins, 4 losses, and 0 wins, 1 loss. And that was just to finish my games out. But also, interestingly and notably, that actual me tweaking things, actually I added better cards because I had drawn them from other packs as I was grinding. But here's the craziest thing is I'm more excited now about the deck than I was when I started, because I ran into some buzzsaws, some very, very expensive decks, and some people that were ranked quite a bit higher than me, which again is standard as you're grinding up to the top. But once again, you can see it. I've linked it. I'll have the deck link down in the description if you want to check it out. And if you have comments on maybe a better way to build it, or maybe hopefully I enlightened you and turned you on to some things you didn't understand, or the rest of that. But just a couple things to note as well. There's some pretty amazing cards in here. The Deathwatch Curate, the Triage Necromancer, the Corpse Swallower. And so what ends up happening is if you have sort of these cards that sort of compound on each other, and meaning that you drop one and it's bringing one, rank 1 cards from your void onto the board every turn. You have the zombie deck, of course, which is bringing the leech zombies onto the board every turn. And if you're frenzied, they're 2/2 zombies, which is incredibly powerful because you get a heal from every time they do damage. But then there's all the rest of this with draw a card when an enemy dies on some of this stuff. So you start to see how if you get just one blocker up there, one big card, or maybe a mess of cards that they can't handle all at the same time, you're not only drawing cards, you're putting extra cards on the board that can attack and take damage, and it works together. And so this is part of the point, right? This deck in particular is not my idea. I took this from actual the GU Decks website, and then modified it to the cards that I have, to the best that I can play right now. And as I play and get better, well, guess what? I'm going to earn more cards. And as I earn more cards, I'm climbing up the ladder. So literally, I was flirting one more time as we finish this. So don't give up. Keep grinding this thing. I was flirting with Ethereal Diamond, and that's close to Mythic, right? And I was actually battling with some guys as we finished up the 60 games there. With Mythic, I was seeing some guys that started in Mythic. I was looking up their stats on GU Decks just to make sure that when I got my ass beat super hard, I was somebody that had been Mythic, and it was the fact, right? They may have been running bad. I did beat a number of decks that were better than mine, probably by several factors even. Call it luck, call it whatever you want to call it, but the deck that I put together is again optimized. It's about $120, I think, is the actual value of this thing. So there we go, 0.0299. So let's do this actually real quick. Let's put this on the thing. There we go, 0.029 ETH to USD. So we have approximately, this deck I'm playing with is about $114 worth of cards, okay? Which in the sense of the decks overall is not really that much, because there's people playing with $1,000 decks or $1,500 decks and things like this with some really, really expensive cards. So anyway, point being is that I'm uploading the games from this week. I've got about half of them recorded. They're uploading right now if you guys want to check it out. If you have comments on this or a way to make this particular deck better, I'm calling it Death Wrecked Cheap, because I climbed up. Literally, it's like a mid-game deck, right? But I'm barking at the top, and I'm battling with some of the top guys, and there were some that were extremely close that very, very much better decks than mine. Lucked out. like I had them on the ropes, and you know they had like the magic card at the perfect time, which is this game, and I understand, and you should understand that as well, that you're not going to win them all. But that deck that I was against maybe won't fare well against me continually, or maybe it'll be the other way around. It's hard to say. Anyway, I wanted to point all this out and talk about this so you guys can see what I was up to, and there's more coming, of course. Gods Unchained, this game is amazing. Don't take this as financial advice because it is not. However, you should be grinding this game as much as you have time. Do it. Get on it. If you like this channel, thumbs up and all the things. Thanks for listening. The games from this week, a bunch of them, at least 20 or 30 games that I played, are uploading right now as we speak. And so if you want to watch some of those games and see the way I play, some of the metas, some of the strategies. Maybe you're not interested in that because I'm not super good at it yet and I don't have amazing decks yet, but that's fine. I think talking about this and getting to the point where we understand how things work together is, again, more information out there, the better. So if you see what I'm doing, then maybe you're able to counter it, and I'll have to cross counter when people start swapping up their decks as well. So anyway, just pointing it out. Thank you very much for hanging out. Thanks for listening, guys. You're the best. Again, if you want to check out my stats, they're right there. And as you know, and I've said, I am not pro at this.